The stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across velvet, the void of space alive with possibilities as Captain Daniel Thorne maneuvered the stellar wraith towards Glycera 3. The ship hummed beneath him, a familiar, comforting sound like a heartbeat. This was not just another mission, it was an escape from the mundane. All right, let's see what this planet has to offer, Daniel muttered to himself, flipping switches that powered up the ship's systems. His co-pilot, a wiry engineer named Max, leaned back in his seat, fingers drumming on the console. You know, if you keep going after these off-the-grid planets, one day you're gonna get us killed, Max joked, though there was a hint of concern in his voice. Daniel chuckled. Or we'll find something extraordinary. This galaxy has more to offer than just war and politics, Max. Sometimes you've got to take risks. Yeah, well, your kind of risk usually gets us grounded and worse. Max rolled his eyes, but Daniel could tell he was more amused than worried. The ship touched down on Glycera 3 with a gentle thud, the engines quieting. Daniel activated the hatch, taking a deep breath. Let's see what trouble we can find. As the hatch swung open, he was greeted by a kaleidoscope of colors. The bustling marketplace sprawled out before him, filled with creatures of all shapes and sizes. The air smelled of spices and something sweet, a tantalizing mix that made his stomach rumble. Just look at that, Daniel said, eyes wide. This could be something special. Max, no longer able to resist the allure of the market, nodded and followed him down the ramp. All right, but remember to keep your cool. Not all aliens are friendly. Since when have I ever been anything but charming? Daniel winked, stepping enthusiastically into the crowd. Charming is one way to put it, Max muttered but couldn't help smirking. As they mingled with the crowd, Daniel's gaze wandered. The vibrant stalls were laden with glittering trinkets, exotic fruits, and wares that looked like they belonged in a dream. A sudden giggle caught his attention. He turned and spotted her, Zyra. She stood just a few feet away, a striking figure with iridescent skin that shimmered under the alien sun. Her large, expressive eyes seemed to radiate curiosity, and her long, flowing hair glowed like a nebula. Did you just get here, human? She asked with a teasing tilt of her head, captivating him instantly. Daniel grinned, not missing a beat. You could say I'm here to save the day, or at least have a good time. Good luck with that, most of your kind seem to stumble into chaos rather than adventure, she replied, a playful challenge in her voice. Maybe chaos is just another form of adventure, he shrugged, stepping closer. I'm Captain Daniel Thorne. And you are? Zyra of Glycera 3, she said, extending a hand which he took. Her skin felt warm to the touch, electric. Nice to meet you, Zyra, he said, holding her gaze. So, what's the best thing to do around here? Well, we could start by getting these humans out of the way, she said, nodding toward a cluster of tourists awkwardly jostling for space at a food stall. They've been hogging all the succulent fruits. Daniel chuckled. Lead the way then. With her guiding him, they navigated through the crowd. Daniel couldn't help but admire her confidence as she slipped past vendors and shoppers, a graceful blend of authority and charm. They finally reached the front of a stall overflowing with bright, fleshy fruits. Try this one, she said, picking a fruit that resembled a star. It's called a grellara. You won't regret it. He accepted the fruit, taking a tentative bite. The flavor exploded, sweet, tangy, an orchestra of sensations that sent his taste buds dancing. Wow, this is amazing, he exclaimed, savoring the bite. Zyra laughed, her eyes glistening with mischief. Told you. Now you're catching on. All right, now it's your turn, he said, nudging her lightly. Try a human dish. Do I have to? I hear they eat questionable things. She scrunched her nose, an adorable expression that made him laugh again. Fine. I can see you're a tough sell, he admitted, pretending to pout dramatically. But just one bite, you might like it. You'd be surprised, she replied, her curiosity winning over. Show me what this human cuisine has to offer. They strolled toward a food stall selling various earth dishes. Daniel pointed to a sizzling skillet of noodles. How about 2 orders of spicy stir-fry? Zyra scrutinized him. Spicy, huh? All right, I'm in. As they waited, Max returned, balancing 2 plates that looked suspiciously like the insurgent version of human food. You guys look like you're having fun without me. Just exploring the culinary delights of Glycera, Daniel replied, pointing to Zyra as though she were the prize. I'm introducing her to real food, human food. Max raised an eyebrow, glancing between them. Careful, Captain. If you keep flirting with the locals, I might get jealous. Trust me, mate, I'm just spreading good cheer. Daniel laughed, but he caught Zyra's gaze, and for a brief moment, the teasing atmosphere shifted into something a little more intimate. Here you go, the vendor chimed, handing them their meals. Daniel handed Zyra her plate with a flourish, enjoying the way her eyes sparkled with anticipation. All right, let's dig in, he declared. They made their way to a nearby bench, laughter ringing out as Zyra took her first bite of the fiery noodles. Her expression transformed from skepticism to delight. This is, wow, spicy. See? I knew you'd like it, Daniel grinned, taking a self-satisfied bite of his own. After several bites and playful banter, Daniel felt a deepening connection between them. Each shared laugh, each teasing remark felt like a step towards something more than just friendship. It was thrilling. Can I be honest? Zyra said after a moment of quiet, intense focus on her food. You're nothing like what I expected from humans. What's that supposed to mean? Daniel raised an eyebrow, a playful challenge in his tone. Most of you are so uptight. You bring chaos wherever you go, but you seem to like it. He interrupted, smiling. Zyra paused, her expression softening. Maybe I do. It's different. Different is good, Daniel agreed, leaning closer. Keeps life interesting. Let's just make sure it doesn't end in disaster, she replied, her voice low and teasing as her gaze locked onto his. No more words were exchanged, yet Daniel could feel the air crackling with unspoken possibilities, a connection growing stronger. Just under the chaos of the marketplace, an adventure had begun, one he never anticipated and desperately wanted to explore further. Chapter 2, The Reckless Proposal. The following days melted together in a whirl of bright markets, shared meals, and laughter. Daniel and Zyra found themselves together more often than not, engaging in increasingly daring escapades around Glycera 3. One afternoon, Daniel led Zyra to a high vantage point overlooking a crystal-clear lake, the surface shimmering with colors that looked almost alive. They had climbed a lightly forested hill to escape the buzz of the marketplace, seeking solitude, laughter still ringing in the air from an earlier fruit-throwing competition that had ended with both of them half-covered in sticky juice. You know, this view is stunning above all the chaos, Daniel commented, leaning against a nearby tree, arms folded across his chest. Zyra stood at the edge, her hair swaying gently in the breeze. You think everything should be an adventure, huh? She asked, glancing back at him, a teasing glint in her eyes. Only the best moments, he replied, a smile playing on his lips. But you know, I might be purged to slow down for you. Just this once. She laughed, a sound like chimes in the wind. Yeah, right? You're a human. Slowing down isn't your strong suit. Though he raised his hand with mock offense, he couldn't help but laugh along. I am a man of action. Besides, wouldn't you be bored just standing around? Maybe I would be, she admitted, stepping closer. But I could never be bored with you around. You're like a walking adventure. Daniel felt a flutter of happiness at her words. You make me want to be a little reckless, Zyra. Maybe I should take it up a notch. She raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What do you have in mind? Skydiving? Trekking through unexplored areas of the planet. Let's raid a dangerous beast's den, he joked, winking. Hold on, there's a limit to how reckless I'll get, she responded with a playful frown. I'm not ready for a showdown with mythical beasts. All right, I'll back off the life-threatening ideas, for now, he chuckled. But what about this? How about we explore beyond this little town? Go to some locations nobody's ever heard of. Zyra considered his words, the golden sunlight catching her features. That could be fun, she admitted, her tone turning contemplative. But what's out there that's so captivating? Uncharted territories, hidden waterfalls, maybe even ancient ruins. I don't know. His excitement bubbled over. But isn't that what life is about? Discovering the unknown? Zyra paused, her expression thoughtful. You make it sound tempting, Captain, she replied, returning to their earlier playful banter. But know this, I'm not your sidekick. I'm just as reckless, so you'd better keep up. Challenge accepted, he declared, fist pumping the air dramatically. Let's plan our epic adventure. Let's, she said, a bright smile illuminating her face. As they made their way back to the marketplace, plans for their journey swirling in their minds, they bumped into Max, who was munching on a street vendor's savory wrap. Where have you two been hiding? Max inquired, wiping his mouth. I thought I'd lost you both to the wilderness. We were contemplating a reckless adventure, Daniel said, a hint of mischief in his tone. Max's face morphed into mock horror. What do you mean by reckless? You didn't drag Zyra off to face any actual danger, did you? Zyra stepped forward, hands on her hips. I am just as reckless. Maybe even more. Daniel thinks he can lead me away from the safe options. Safe options are overrated, Daniel added, unable to suppress his excitement. We want to discover something no one else has. Now I'm starting to worry, Max replied, his expression shifting to skeptical amusement. What if you two end up lost or in trouble? Then you'll have a fantastic story to tell, Daniel shot back, grinning widely. Yeah, a story about how the captain and his alien friend got themselves stranded in the middle of nowhere, Max teased. Sounds like fun to me. Zyra laughed. You both are insane, Max said, shaking his head, but the smile gave him away. I wouldn't want to miss this for anything. Join us, Daniel exclaimed, the idea striking him like a bolt out of the blue. What's an adventure without a good friend along for the ride? Max looked between Daniel and Zyra, then shrugged. Fine. I'll consider it under one condition. Which is? Daniel asked, curious. No more wild stunts. I'll take part in the exploration, yes, but I draw the line at facing a venomous monster or falling off a cliff. Zyra raised her hand in mock defeat. All right, I'll try to keep us out of trouble. Daniel rolled his eyes playfully. You two are such party poopers. But all right, no cliff diving, yet. They strolled through the bustling market exchanging ideas. Each corner they turned seemed to spark a new notion, laughter rippling through the air as they playfully bickered over the details. You know what I love about being with you two? Max said suddenly, looking back and forth between them. It's the way you challenge each other. It's refreshing. Thanks, I think, Daniel said with a chuckle. But it's a balancing act between reckless and responsible. I'll take reckless any day, Zyra affirmed, upturning her chin defiantly. Life deserves to be lived, not just observed. Max shook his head in amusement. I can't believe I'm actually joining in on this madness. Madness? Daniel echoed. More like exhilarating fun. Just as they were about to head back to the ship to gather supplies, Daniel spotted something shimmering in the window of a nearby shop. What's that? He asked, breaking away from their conversation and walking toward the window. Zyra followed closely, her curiosity piqued. What do you see? It's a map. He squinted, trying to get a better view through the glass. Looks like an old star chart. Are you thinking about tracing our path? Finding new territories? Max asked, his interest now piqued as well. Zyra placed her hands on her hips. You have to get it. We can't just wander aimlessly. A little direction could go a long way. All right, Daniel said, stepping towards the door. You stay here and I'll check it out. He entered the shop, and as he spoke with the vendor about the map, he could feel Zyra and Max's excited energy radiating from the doorway. He returned a few moments later, map in hand, an exhilarated grin across his face. All right, fellas. Here's the plan. This chart leads to a hidden valley rumored to have ancient ruins. It'll be our destination. Max raised an eyebrow, perplexed and intrigued. And when do we leave? How about tomorrow? Daniel suggested, eyes gleaming with anticipation. We can gather supplies and freshen up tonight. Sure, Zyra said, her enthusiasm infectious. I can't wait to see what we'll discover. Tomorrow then. But let's make sure we keep things safe, right? Max laughed, bundling up the old map with Daniel's adrenaline-pumped excitement fueling the future. Safe is boring. Daniel countered, igniting their playful banter as they walked back to the ship, discussion buzzing with ideas swirling like the stars around them. Plans were set in motion. Tomorrow would usher in their reckless exploration. Together, they were ready to forge a new path, one filled with laughter, adventure, and a bit of unpredictable chaos. Chapter 3: The Departure. Morning light spilled through the viewport of the stellar wraith, illuminating the cabin with a warm glow. Daniel stirred from sleep, excitement bubbling like fizzing energy drink in his veins. Today was the day. He swung his legs over the side of his bunk and stretched, letting out a satisfied groan. Stepping into the main living area, he was greeted by the familiar, industrial scent of ship metal mixed with the fresh aroma of brewed coffee from Max, who was already up and awake. Morning, Captain. Max chirped, balancing 3 cups of steaming coffee in one hand like a circus performer. Ready for our grand adventure? More than ready. Daniel replied, grabbing one of the cups and taking a deep sip. What's the plan? Simple. We load up supplies, follow that map, and then become famous explorers, Max declared while expertly pouring another cup for Zyra, who had just entered with her hair tousled and a slight smile playing at her lips. Famous, huh? Zyra said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. What will our headlines read? 2 humans and an alien go wild? Sounds like a reality show. Don't forget the tagline, Mayhem awaits? Daniel quipped, handing her the coffee Max had prepared. Let's just make sure it doesn't turn into a documentary on our stupidity, Max added with a grin. Now come on, finish your coffee and let's get moving. Agreed, Zyra said, taking a sip and leaning against the wall. I can already feel the adventure calling to me. Adventure? Or just my cooking skills? Daniel jested, earning a chuckle from both of them. After a quick breakfast, they piled supplies into the ship, food, water, climbing gear, and the map that had sparked their adventurous spirit. Do you think we have everything? Max asked, shifting through their packed items with a scrutinizing eye. Definitely, Daniel assured him. Even the first aid kit, right? Right? Just don't let you treat any injuries. I've seen how you handle it. Max teased, nudging him with his elbow. You worry too much, Daniel shot back, playfully bumping Max. I promise I'll leave the bandaging to the professionals. Zyra laughed, her infectious enthusiasm spreading to both men. Okay, enough fussing. Let's start our journey before we find more things to argue about. Once everyone was settled, Daniel slid into the pilot's seat, fingers dancing over controls as the ship powered up. He shot an excited glance back at Zyra and Max. Strap in, folks. Next stop, adventure. All systems go. Max called from the co-pilot position and Zyra secured herself in the rear with practiced ease. As they ascended into the great expanse of space, Daniel felt the thrill of the unknown bubbling inside him. So, about this hidden valley, he began, glancing at the map displayed on the control screen. What are we expecting? Well, Zyra began, her expression serious. Rumor has it there are ancient ruins. They're said to hold secrets about the civilizations that inhabited this planet before we did. Maybe some advanced technology, or even artifacts. Sweet, Daniel replied, his interest piqued. What are we gonna find? Treasure? Magic? Probably more like remnants of a culture long gone, but maybe a hidden treasure too, she said, her eyes gleaming. Wouldn't that be amazing? Treasure? You're already stirring my imagination, Max said, leaning forward, eyes bright. Count me in. All right then, Daniel grinned, it's settled. We're not only adventurers but treasure hunters. The ship banked left and they flipped into the wormhole that linked them to the hidden valley. A burst of light enveloped them before fading away into the black vastness of space. Moments later, the serenity of the valley emerged, a lush green tapestry dotted with sparkling blue streams, mountains standing majestically in the distance. Looks amazing, Daniel exclaimed, excitement bubbling over. We made it. Wait till you see it even closer, Zyra added, pointing to a shimmering feature peeking out from the foliage. We must be getting close to the ruins. As the stellar wraith glided lower, anxiety danced with thrill. They landed on a grassy hilltop and Daniel quickly initiated the landing sequence. The engines hummed softly before falling silent. Let's gear up, Daniel said, leaping out with enthusiasm. Once outside, the sun warmed their skin as they gathered around the entrance of the valley. A path wound ahead, framed by trees swaying gently in the breeze. Which way? Max asked, scanning their surroundings. Zyra consulted the map. We need to head left towards the water. It should be about a mile down this path. Then let's get going. I don't want to waste time. Who knows what wonders lie ahead? Daniel declared, powering forward down the twisting path. As they walked, conversation flowed like the stream beside them. So, what do you think the civilization was like? Max asked, his curiosity ignited. From what I read, they were an advanced species, Zyra replied thoughtfully. They were known for their stunning architecture and remarkable inventions. Kind of like how humans built great cities, right? Daniel interjected, shooting them a sideways glance. Exactly. But with a twist of wild creativity, Zyra said with flair. They were explorers at heart too. Then I guess we fi. He teased, pretending to be affronted while her eyes twinkled. Careful now, or I might just take off running, he challenged, dodging her light retaliation. They continued along the path, their playful banter heavy with an undeniable connection. The anticipation built with each step they took closer to uncovering the secrets hidden deep within the valley. Do you hear that? Max suddenly asked, pulling them to a halt as he strained to listen. The sound of rushing water grew louder, layered over with an unfamiliar echo that sent a thrill through the air. What is that? Zyra murmured, her expression shifting to focused curiosity. Let's check it out, Daniel said, unable to resist the pull of adventure. As they neared the source, they reached a magnificent waterfall cascading down rugged rocks, the mist creating a rainbow in the sunlight. But it wasn't the waterfall that captured their attention, it was the outline of stone pillars partially obscured by thick vines behind the water. Those must be the ruins, Max exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. Do you think we can get to them? Zyra asked, her excitement palpable as her heart raced. Of course, Daniel encouraged, determination fueling his expression. We'll just need to figure out how to cross the water. Looks like we can climb up the rocks, Max pointed out. And then there's a ledge on the right that leads behind the waterfall. It should be our best shot. Let's do it. Daniel rallied, the thrill of adventure urging them onward. Zyra stepped up beside him, her eyes shimmering with excitement. Ready for the unknown? Always, he replied, shooting her a grin. Together, they started to climb, laughter and camaraderie filling the space around them as they approached the secrets that awaited beyond the waterfall. With every step, their connection deepened even further. They were not just colleagues or friends, but explorers of each other's worlds as well. And with each climb, the adventure unfolded, promising paths that would change their destinies forever. Chapter 4, The First Kiss. The roar of the waterfall grew as they climbed, the mist enveloping them like a cool blanket. Daniel, Zyra, and Max moved swiftly over the slippery rocks, their laughter a bright contrast to the cascade's booming presence. Each step brought them closer to the ruins hidden behind the water. "I can't believe we're doing this," Zyra called out, her voice almost drowned by the sound of rushing water. "Just think of the stories we'll tell," Daniel shouted back, glancing over his shoulder. His eyes gleamed with excitement. "Are we explorers, or what?" "More like a bunch of thrill-seekers," Max replied, nearly losing his footing on a slick surface. "Let's hope we don't slip and fall in." "Hold on to your gear, Max. It's all part of the fun," Daniel teased, a hint of mischief dancing in his eyes. After navigating the rocks, they reached the ledge outside the waterfall where churning water fell a few feet away. A tremble of anticipation rolled through Daniel as he took in the view before him, a large stone archway partially hidden by vines, its engravings worn but visible against the ancient rock. "Wow," Zyra breathed, stepping forward and brushing her fingers over one of the carvings. "This is incredible. Looks like it used to be a grand entrance," Daniel said, joining her. "I wonder what lies beyond." "Only one way to find out," Max interjected, stepping to the fore. "Just be careful. We can't get too carried away." Daniel nodded in agreement, but excitement buzzed in his veins. Together, they ventured through the archway, stepping into a cavern shrouded in shadows illuminated only by the occasional beam of light piercing through cracks above. "Look at this," Daniel exclaimed, pointing toward a series of rock formations that lined the walls, each decorated with ancient symbols. "Those could represent their history," Zyra said, her eyes wide with intrigue. "Or maybe their beliefs. Or a menu for their favorite meals," Daniel joked, earning a playful glare from Zyra. "Seriously, though, this is remarkable," she replied, her expression shifting to one of awe as she traced the inscriptions with her fingertip. "Can you read any of it?" Max asked, stepping closer to the wall. Zyra shook her head. "Not exactly, but I can try to decipher it. We could take some pictures for reference later." "Good idea," Daniel agreed, pulling out a small scanner to capture the engravings. "Max, can you help hold the light?" "On it," Max replied, adjusting the device in the dimness. As they worked together, the air filled with their chatter. The atmosphere felt electric, threaded with an undercurrent of growing chemistry between Daniel and Zyra. It wasn't just the intrigue of discovery, something unspoken lingered between them. "So, what's next for our prized explorers?" Max quipped, glancing between them as he positioned the light. "Are you going to go for the kiss in front of the ancient wall?" Daniel raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. "Kiss? In front of our audience here?" Zyra shot Daniel a playful glare, her cheeks flushing a faint purple hue. "That's so perfectly romantic?" Daniel finished, shooting her a charming smile. Max rolled his eyes with a laugh. "A classic line for any explorer. Just for you, Max. You should write this down for your memoirs," Daniel replied. Zyra laughed, shaking her head. "Let's get back to the adventure, shall we?" "Of course. Adventure first. Romantic encounters later," Daniel said dramatically, striding toward a narrow passage that led deeper into the cavern. As they moved along, the light began to dim further, and the atmosphere shifted. The flickering shadows cast by their devices danced on the walls, sparking a sense of mystery. Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that the deeper they went, the more the air thickened with history. They reached another expansive chamber, and Daniel felt his breath catch. The ceiling arched high above, where stalactites hung like teeth ready to break the silence. A massive stone altar dominated the center, covered in dust but carved with intricate designs similar to those on the walls. "Well, this looks important," Max said, stepping cautiously toward it. "Definitely an altar," Zyra mused, gazing at the engravings. "But what was it used for? Maybe some sort of ritual?" Daniel suggested, feeling the weight of countless stories woven into the air around them. "I wonder if they sacrificed anything here," Max remarked, teasing a shudder from Zyra. "Let's not think too much about that," she chuckled. "How about we focus on what we can learn?" Just then, Daniel noticed something glinting atop the altar, a small, gem-like object. Its surface reflected the beams of their lights, casting colorful patterns across the chamber. "Hey, check this out," Daniel called, stepping closer and reaching out carefully to pick it up. "What is it?" Max asked, squinting. "It looks like a gemstone, but there might be more to it." Daniel turned it over in his hand, feeling its cool surface. "It's beautiful. It could be an artifact," Zyra speculated, her interest piqued as she stepped closer. "But we should be cautious. We don't know what it could unleash. Bring it here. I want to see," Max urged, his excitement bubbling over the cautious concern. Daniel held it out for them both to see. "What's the worst that could happen?" "Famous last words," Zyra replied, her voice playful yet serious. Living on the edge, remember? It's what we do, Daniel said, their eyes locking briefly. There was a moment of silence, tension hanging in the air like a thread pulled tight. Daniel felt the lure of the moment growing stronger, the world around them fading as he focused entirely on her. Still, it seems wrong to just take it, she said softly, her gaze unwavering. Max, sensing the shift, coughed lightly. We don't want to anger the ancient spirits. Remember, this is their sacred space. But what if it's a key or an artifact of great significance? Daniel argued, feeling drawn to both the object and the moment itself. Or a curse? Zyra countered, playful caution brightening her eyes. All right, fine. I won't keep it, Daniel said, sensing the magical moment slipping. As he adjusted the gem in his palm, he moved closer to Zyra. But what if? Suddenly, a shadow passed over them, causing all three to turn. The sensation morphed into flat-out dread as the cavern thundered, the walls seemingly shifting ominously. Did you feel that? Max gasped, stepping backward. I did, Zyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel dropped the gem back onto the altar, his heart racing. Okay, let's get out of here. With haste, they retreated toward the entrance they had come through, the once congenial atmosphere now charged with urgency. As they pushed through the narrow passage, Daniel caught Zyra's eye again, her expression a mix of fear and exhilaration. We'll come back. I promise, Daniel said, making a mental note as they rushed outside. As they emerged into the sunlight, the waterfall roared triumphantly behind them. Daniel felt a rush of relief as the sunlight washed over him, but the thrill of the cave lingered. He turned to find Zyra already gazing back with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Can you believe what just happened in there? She exclaimed, laughter mixing with tension. An adventurous escape? Count me in, Daniel replied, breath catching in his throat. She stepped closer, their faces barely inches apart. You're insane. But honestly, that was exhilarating. Daniel grinned, heart racing as the moment hung between them like a thread waiting to be pulled. Insane might just be my middle name. And without thinking, he leaned closer, catching her gaze, pulling her into a kiss that felt like everything around them shimmered, the world fading away until it was just the two of them against the entire universe. The kiss deepened as everything else fell away, time itself paused in that moment, surrounded by the beauty of their chaotic adventure. The connection between them simmered, deeper than ever before. I didn't see that coming, Max joked from a few steps behind them, breaking the fragile spell as the absurdity of their situation rushed back in. Daniel found himself laughing against Zyra's lips as they pulled away, their hearts racing. Guess you'll be sticking around for the chaotic romance too, Max. Just don't forget about me when you're off making out, Max teased, throwing his hands up comically. Zyra shook her head, laughter bubbling up. I think we can fit you into our busy schedule, Max. With a composition of thrill, chaos, and the alto-connected bond that had just formed, they turned away from the waterfall and headed back toward their ship, ready to take on both the dangers and delights yet to come. Chapter 5, The Path Ahead. The journey back to the stellar wraith was filled with a bubbling energy, laughter spilling into the air as Daniel, Zyra, and Max pushed through the foliage, energized by the thrill of their earlier discovery. The kiss that lingered in Daniel's mind added a layer of excitement that was hard to shake off. I can't believe we actually made it out of there without summoning a horde of ancient spirits, Max said, glancing over his shoulder as they walked. Speak for yourself. I'm still trembling from the adrenaline. Zyra chimed in, a vibrant smile plastered on her face. That kiss may have been the cherry on top. Daniel shot her a quick look, his cheeks warming. Are we discussing the kiss again? Of course, we are. It was epic, she exclaimed, nudging him with her shoulder. A perfect moment in the most chaotic environment ever. You both have hearts of explorers and clearly know how to divert attention, Max said with mock annoyance, bringing a hand to his forehead dramatically. But seriously, I'm not ready for your romantic entanglements to become more dangerous than actual exploring. Oh, come on, Max. Even you have to admit that was a monumental discovery, Daniel countered, his own smile widening. And we have a treasure in the ruins to back it up. Yes. Our treasure hunt is becoming legendary, Zyra added, bouncing her steps along the terrain. All thanks to a kiss and a gemstone. Max rolled his eyes but couldn't help grinning. Just wait until the tabloids get a whiff of this. 3 adventurers, 1 kiss, and the quest for antiquity. It'll sell like hotcakes. Now, that's a headline I could support, Daniel laughed. I can just imagine the colorful illustrations they'd come up with. All right, enough with the fantasies about fame, Max said, shaking his head. As they neared the ship, the familiar silhouette of the stellar wraith loomed ahead. The glow from the ship's exterior lights painted a welcoming scene, grounding them back into their reality. Let's regroup and figure out our next steps, Daniel suggested, leading the way inside. Once aboard, they settled into the cockpit, pulling out the now dusty map and the gem they had retrieved. The atmosphere shifted slightly as they placed the gem on the control panel, the light refracting through it, casting colorful patterns around the room. "Okay," Daniel said, smoothing out the map across the console. "What do we want to do with these?" "First things first, let's take a closer look at this gem," Zyra said, leaning in closer to it. "It's beautiful and it might have more significance than we realize." "I can analyze it," Max suggested, tapping away on the console. "Maybe there's a way to scan it for more details." "Do it," Daniel encouraged, his heart racing as they prepared for their next endeavor. Max activated the scanner, a series of bright lights illuminating the gem. As the machine whirred, Zyra continued to study it. "I keep thinking about what the old writings might have hinted at," she said, tilting her head as she examined a minute symbol on the gem. "Do you think it could be some kind of key or a map?" "Possible," Max replied, studying the readings on the screen. "But whatever it is, it's unusual. The structure of this gem is unlike anything I've seen before." Daniel leaned forward. "What about its energies? Can it tell us anything?" "It appears that the gem resonates with the energy signatures from the ruins," Max said, narrowing his eyes at the readings. "But it's also showing something else." Suddenly, a beep interrupted him, causing them to turn toward the console in alertness. The scanner began to blink rapidly and a projected hologram sprung to life above the gem. "What is that?" Zyra gasped, hands clasped to her mouth as they watched the imagery form. "It's showing a location," Daniel exclaimed, excitement flooding through him. "Look at the coordinates." Max adjusted the hologram, illustrating their unknown destination on the star map. "This could be another significant site, like an extension of the ruins. Or it could be a trap," Zyra said, concern creeping into her voice. "What if it leads us into danger?" Daniel shrugged, eyes gleaming with adventurous delight. "Or it could lead us to something incredible. We don't know until we get there, right? But this could be bigger than we expect," Max cautioned, still observing the holographic information trembling before them. "We need to prepare well and research our path. It's risky." "Since when has any great adventure been safe?" Daniel asked, trying to lighten the mood. "Since all three of us want to come back in one piece," Max shot back, a small grin peeking through. "In that case, we will prepare," Zyra declared. "Let's figure out this site's history and see what we might be walking into. Right? We'll gather data and materials, and after that, we can show Max our newly acquired magical gemstone," Daniel announced enthusiastically, navigating the ship systems to acquire information. With determination buzzing in the air, they gathered supplies, researching what little they could find about the coordinates projected by the gem. The thrill of uncovering ancient secrets swirled around them like stardust. After what felt like hours, Max leaned back in his chair, rubbing his worn eyes. "The more I dive into this, the more chaotic it sounds. Ancient beings, hidden technology, and treasures abound. Sounds like a perfect scenario for 3 adventurers, don't you think?" Daniel replied, brimming with excitement. "I don't know whether to applaud or be terrified," Max muttered, though a smile danced on his lips. "Probably both," Zyra said, her eyes twinkling. "But still, we can't deny how extraordinary this could be. Think of it as part of our story. Just make sure it's a good one," Max replied. "We've already got enough chaos as it is." With everything ready, the trio gathered around the ship controls, teeth gnawing at their lips as they contemplated their next move. "Set the coordinates and let's hit the stars," Daniel said, determination brimming in his eyes. "I hope you're ready for another round of excitement," Zyra added, her voice a mix of thrill and anticipation. "Excitement is what I live for," Daniel replied, injecting energy into their promise of adventure. As the ship powered up and soared into the cosmos once again, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something that would change their lives forever. An adventure filled with uncertainty awaited them, with each star packing the potential for chaos, laughter, and even deeper connections. With the vast expanse of space stretching before them and newfound determination coursing through their veins, they were preparing to embrace whatever the universe tossed their way. The journey they'd embarked upon had only just begun, the road ahead buzzed with promise, and they were ready to uncover the treasures hidden within it.